Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kristen. This is the third week of my December reading vlogs, and I am about halfway through the Liar's Knot. I'm on page 298 of 629 or something like that. So today's Friday. I did pick this up on Wednesday, but I didn't read all day like I had sort of been planning, and like how I said at the end of the last reading vlog when it arrived. And that's because I kind of had a little bit of a dilemma. I'm not gonna grab the other book, but basically I was pre-ordering this book and I knew that I needed to pre-order the UK version because Taylor had really hinted that she was going to get me the Mask of Mirrors and she was getting the UK version. And I swear I ordered the UK version. Like, I quadruple checked. I didn't order it the first time I looked. Like, I went back several times. I swear I ordered the UK version, but when it arrived, I got the US version, and I guess I'll get it. There's a little bit of a size discrepancy in these two versions. So basically I spent all day Wednesday after it arrived kind of hemming and hawing and trying to figure out what I was going to do, because I didn't want to read it if I was going to send it back. Like, that's not fair to, like, you know, break open the spine and get into it. And I wasn't sure how much it was going to bother me that they were essentially like different sizes on my shelves in the future. I literally spent all day hemming and hawing about it, because on one hand I wanted to pick up the book right away and get reading, and on the other hand I thought that probably in the future the size was gonna bother me, but I did end up picking it up. I'm going to keep it. But I basically read all day yesterday. I am reading it very slow. Like, I'm spending a lot of time, but I'm reading it very slow. Like, I'm savoring every sentence and every page of what's happening. I am honestly loving it so much. It is a little bit different than the first book. So just to explain, so this is the sequel to The Mask and Mirrors, which for sure is my favorite book from 2021. Like, spoiler, I don't think that anyone will be surprised when that video comes out. This is absolutely my favorite book. And this is the start of a new fantasy series called The Rook and Rose. It is a con artist story. Our main character, Ren, is pretending to be this noble lady, Alta Renata, so that she can be formally adopted into this house that she's pretending to be a long lost cousin of, and that way get access to their register their accounts and stuff like that. But while she is doing this long con, like, I've heard some people say it's a heist story, and it doesn't have that like fast-paced problems sort of atmosphere of a heist story, because it's more of a long con. She is pretending to be this person all the time, and not just like one in and done. She is building relationships with these people that she is trying to con to have them adopt her into their family in the long run. Also follow like this crime lord who's trying to get into more legitimate business. We follow the captain of the city guard. We get some different perspectives from family members of the family that she's trying to con into. I would say it's just like a really, really fun book. When I reread it at the beginning of January, or at the beginning of December or early November, or late November, it just reminded me how much I really, really liked the story. Like, I enjoyed reading it. I had such a fun time. She actually does create another persona in this at some point that's actually like her real name, but she's pretending to be a Sorza, which is sort of like a fortune teller, using the pattern, which is one of the systems of magic in this. Anyway, loved it. There's also this masked vigilante called the Rook, and that's why the series is called The Rook and the Rose. And at the end of this book, at the very end, we do find out who the Rook is, which means, okay, I have to redo this part because I just talked a bunch about the Rook and I realized I was using a particular pronoun, so I'm redoing it. So basically, okay, I did it again. The Rook knows who Ren is. They know they know that Ren and Arenza and Alta Renata and this new persona, they know that that is all one person. When we are in the character who is the Rook, when we're in that person's perspective, the thoughts that connect that identity with the Rook are no longer separate. So in their thoughts, we now see how they make certain decisions, how they choose to be when to be one person and the other, how their personality and their persona is sort of different when they are the Rook versus who they are in real life. And so that's really, really interesting. But then you also get this added interesting component of the fact that they know who Ren is, and they know the con that she's, do they know the con? They know what all she's up to, and they begin to see and appreciate all of the different things that she is doing. It has led to like all of this, the fact that Ren does not know who the Rook is, but the Rook knows who Ren is. The two people actually interact together in all of the different variations of their shared, I don't know, 5-6 personas. They interact together in all of these different ways, and it's actually really, really fun to see how they pretend to know and not know different information depending on which version of the other person they are talking to and who they are themselves in that moment. It's so much fun. And that's what I would say about this book, and let's say the first book as well, is that they're just really enjoyable. Like, I'm smiling the whole time that I'm reading. I'm laughing out loud. The pacing is a little bit slow. I know that there was a huge pacing shift at about the 50% in the first book. We'll see if that happens again in this book. It has been relatively slow up to this point. There have been some like dramatic clashes and confrontations so far, which were really great. I won't say what's going on with the plot. Like, it is a little bit different. It is a separate, distinct plot from the first book, or I guess like there's a new problem that involves this like secret society that Ren at the beginning of the book is invited to join. And so there's that, and as well, like just all of the complicated politics. There is a romantic subplot. Whereas in this book, it felt like there was the possibility of some romance. It was not a focus, but it's like you can see that there is the possibility of certain relationships in this book, whereas in this book it's a lot more prevalent. The subplot it's very much so a subplot that is happening. I really like romance in books. I'm actually really, really enjoying this one, the development of this one, because it is in a very slow burn kind of a way. I can't make any other comments on that because I feel like if I do, anything that you say about it will give it away of who it's between. I think if you finish this book, you probably know who the two people are going to be in this one. I've actually even been putting off sort of starting this vlog just because I didn't want to take the time out of reading to like sit down and do this. So anyway, that is where I'm at with reading. I will keep letting you know. I did put Wildwood Dancing aside. I'm going to finish that, but not until I finish The Liar's Knot. And we'll go from there. I love it so much. I love this book. I think that it probably has flaws. If people have critiques for this, for The Liar's Knot, I have not read any reviews yet. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm sure that there are critiques to be made. I am just so in love with everything that's happening. Something really, really, really sweet just happened, and it's actually been a lot of complicated character dynamics. I mean, that was the case in the first book, but in this one, just with like information that we got at the end of the last book, how that is all shaping out. It's complicated, the dynamics between the characters involved, but at the same time, it's so adorable. I'm not just talking about the romance, just like there's friendship elements too, and it's kind of been like up and down friendship stuff. Oh, for people who are reading, I don't know, I mean, like, I'm at 373. I don't know what chapter this is. It's the night where it's like the third day of the third month and all the stuff is happening with like a potential letter of exposure, and one character just did something. My heart. Hey guys, it is Saturday afternoon. I finished The Liar's Knot last night. I basically read all day yesterday. I have thoughts, I have feelings, I have giddy, warm heart sensations. yeah, so I'll update you on my thoughts on The Liar's Knot without being too spoilery, and I think I might either do a review or like a series up to this point sort of a thing. I don't know. I would like to talk more about the Brooke and Rose series in general to convince more people to read this series. I have not done any reading yet today, actually, and usually sometimes I put down a series and like immediately pick up another book, and I decided not to. Like, I just kind of want to let that linger. I do have to get back to Wildwood Dancing. I have no idea what I'm going to read next. Maybe I'll check my list. I'll grab my laptop and do that. There it is, December 2021 TBR. Okay, what else do I have on my list? So from GGK, Tigana, Last Light of the Sun, A Song for Our Bond. I'm saving A Song for Our Bond for a rainy day because actually I don't need to reread it for the video that I'm doing these rereads for. Not quite ready to pick up Tigana yet. But the other thing is Juliette Marillier, which I've been reading a lot of Juliette Marillier. So I have down here Wildwood Dancing, A Song of Flight, The Dark Mirror, Dreamer's Pool. I think I just hit postpone on A Song of Flight at the library, so that one I don't think I have access to just yet. I'm about to finish Wildwood Dancing, and I read The Dark Mirror. So actually I'm doing okay on that. And then I have The Mask of Mirrors reread, done. Liar's Knot, done. Guards, In a Holidays, A Christmas Carol, and Archangel and Assassin's Apprentice. Assassin's Apprentice was a maybe. Maria from the channel Tea Books Magic and I are going to be reading that together in a buddy read, and I think we've decided to wait until January. So I don't need to read that one just yet. Guards is my fantasy book club's, my physical fantasy book club here in the town that I live. That's our book for January. No, I think it's our December book. It's our December book, but we're not meeting to talk about it until early January. We just had our meeting for November because people were slower to read it this time. So I'm actually kind of waiting. Guards, I think I'm going to do like the last week of December. Like, I'm going to read that post-Christmas. I've heard that it's relatively short, so I would like to read it closer to when I'm actually going to be talking about it with other people. I guess I should really start A Christmas Carol. I don't want to read it In a Holidays yet. I'm kind of waiting to read that like in and around Christmas. Part of me feels like I haven't been reading very much. Like, I'm like not reading a lot or something. I have that sensation even though I am checking off books, and I feel like my December list was so big and I felt like I wasn't making progress. But now that I actually look at it, I'm doing okay. I feel like none of the books are really exciting to me in the next week. No, you know what? I'm gonna read Archangel. It's in that cupboard, so I'm not gonna get it right now. I'm gonna read Archangel next because my friend Rishma from my book club loaned it to me ages ago. So I'm gonna read that next because I think that it'll be nice. I have actually been enjoying the one thing with the reading physical books that I've been doing a lot of because I've had like The Last Light of the Sun and The Liar's Knot, and I haven't had physical books to read in a really long time. So I'm really enjoying it. I like physically reading. I'm just filming. I just meant like, don't make a ton of noise or talk to me. The one thing with physical reading is that you cannot read it well into the night once my partner has gone to sleep. So this has some nights made me actually put down a book at a good time, which is one of my goals. You'll know if you watched my reading goals video. But also then some nights I'm like, no, I really would like to keep reading, and then I sit on the couch for a while and read, and then I wake my partner up when I go in. So, you know, pros and cons of reading a physical book, but Archangel is really short. I'm going to read that. So once I get into it, I'll tell you a little bit more about what it is about. It's by the author Sharon Shinn. And actually, I have seen her on I've seen books of hers, not this specific book, but I've seen some other books of hers on comparative lists for if you like Juliette Marillier. So I'm really looking forward to it. And this is like I think like a childhood favorite book of my friend Rishma's. So looking forward to that. Okay, let's get into Liar's Knot. I'll put my laptop down. Is it a perfect book? No. Did it make me feel wonderful, cozy things? Yes. Was it exactly the same as Mask of Mirrors? Like, yes and no. It had really great relationship, like character dynamics. I think that's my favorite thing. It's One of my favorite things about this series is that the characters have really interesting interactions and dynamics with each other. It has a little bit of a feel of found family, even though like our main character Ren does kind of come into the first book with a little bit of a found family with like her sister. She said sister, they're sort of like not blood sisters, they're like pact sisters. But slowly in the first book, we sort of get this feeling of a newfound family, and that continues on in The Liar's Knot, but it also expands a little bit. Ren is in a really different place in this second book where the cons are still going on, like all of the cons that she had from the first book are still happening. And there are times when they feel like it's like balancing on the edge of a knife, like of like being found out. Like, so you still have those like, oh no, but maybe less so compared to the first book where she was always having to come up with like dealing with people guessing who she is and stuff like that, or like the con almost falling apart. This one, it feels like she's got that more figured out, and it's more that she is personally struggling with juggling so many different cons, and not in a sense of like being able to keep them all up, but like physically draining, and also that sense of like identity isn't clear because she exists in so many different versions of herself. And then we do get a little bit of that with the person who is the Rook as well. We see how that second identity impacts their life. And then, as I said in like when I was saying yesterday, like we see all of these different interactions between all of our characters. Like I think that the dynamics between our main characters, Vargo, Gray, and Ren, and the Rook, like all of that is really, really where this book shines. And like I think the tagline is something like, knots can tie us together or hang us, or like very much so. Like this book is about secrets and trust and a little bit of identity. I think that the pacing was pretty slow in this book, and that actually felt like it had less action than the first book, where like definitely in the first book it was like the first with the 50% mark that like something happened. It was like this big action thing, and it felt like the plot or the pacing like raced towards the end after that, and it was like bam bam bam, like stuff was happening. And in this one actually it felt a lot calmer. It was more about these like secrets and lies and tension between all of our different characters, and less so about actionable events. Like it actually felt like when things were happening, like the action moments, they were actually pretty tame. Like I would say that the ending was a touch anticlimactic actually, like, and not in a bad way, just like this book almost felt a little bit like, I want to say fan service, even though I feel like there's a negative connotation to that. It's not exactly that. It's that I love these characters and this world so much now that every time something good and something tense happened, I was so emotionally invested that I cared so much. And when good things happened, I was just like doing that like girly squealing thing and like texting Taylor like, oh my god, I can't wait for you to read this book so that we can talk about it. Like my heart was just so exploding of happiness and then like stress, but then when things would go right, like anyway, just like I was very emotionally invested. But I feel like to really enjoy that book, you do need to be emotionally invested in it, where actually from like a plot perspective, things were pretty quiet and the action moments were like not drawn out, if that makes sense. Even up until I think there was like maybe 20 or 30, like in the last 40-ish, let's say conservatively, chapters or pages, I mean, where I'm like looking, and that's the other thing with having a physical book, is that you can see when the ending is coming. Whereas in a ebook, I don't pay attention to the percentage number, so I have no idea. But in this, like, you can see the ending's coming, and there had been sort of a climactic action sequence that I was like, was that it? Like, this is it? And we're like, because it felt like we were just sort of doing wrap up. And on that note too, like I had heard that this book, like the first book, had a complete story arc. And so at this point where there was only like 30 or 40 pages left, maybe like 20 even, I was thinking like, this doesn't feel like as complete of a story arc as the first one did. This feels like it's leading up into something that's going somewhere else. And then actually we got like another action sequence in like the last 20 pages or so, and then it felt like a complete story arc. There's definitely still lots of missing pieces. There are still mysteries, and there are things that we're going to be dealing with. Like there is still more stuff to do in the third book Same as with at the end of the Mask of Mirrors, it felt like you had like this conclusion to something, but there were still a lot of unknowns and mysteries. What did we get in this book? We got a lot more world building in a sense of the history of this world. I'm sorry, I think my neighbor is vacuuming. We got a lot more world building and from a historical perspective with the city of Nadizra. I know that people were concerned about like lack of explanation with the magic systems. I think that we do get a decent amount more understanding of the magic in this book. It is a little bit more of a focus with what's going on. And we don't get like a, here's how this works explanation. Like we don't get that, but they casually talk about it so much that even though you don't, like it's very intellectual from their perspective, so we don't understand everything, but they talk enough about it in this one that I'm starting to understand a little bit more about specifically the written magic system. And then the pattern is just like, it's fortune telling. You just accept that it's fortune telling. That's the rule. But they're starting to interweave and a little bit more of understanding. So I would say like we get more history in this book. We get a little bit more of the understanding of the magic system. We get all of the if you liked the character dynamics and complexities, like I think that's where Mask of Mirrors shines, and I think people who really like Mask of Mirrors like it because of those things. Yes to that. In this book, there's a slow burn romance that is, yes, it is probably between the people you think it's going to be between. That's perfect. The one thing I will say is, I already said like on plot was a little bit maybe slow, like pacing was slow. I enjoyed it though. Like I had a smile on my face this whole time. I was laughing, I was giggling. I felt happy. I felt so happy reading this book, even when things were stressful. I was just so invested and like actually genuinely emotionally happy, which made me realize that I have not been super happy lately, maybe. That I like was feeling that level of happiness and it felt like different than how I feel a lot. So something to note for myself. The one thing is that I think actually we didn't get enough Tess and Sedge in this book. This book very much so was about the Rook and Gray and Vargo and Ren. But actually the distance between Ren and Tess and Sedge was part of the story. So it made sense. Loved it. I think no other comments, no other non-spoilery things I think I can say about that one. I'm very happy with the book. Very happy. Not disappointed in any way. And I'm really looking forward to reading more from these authors. Yeah. I don't talk about this a lot, but there's like a huge LGBTQ plus rep in this book. It's like some built into their world. They have gay characters, they have transgender characters, we have queer relationships, just like all of it, and it's done in a way that it is built into their world, and they're like, nothing is like blood relationship, right? It's all about like being in like a knot or being in like the family register, and there's like adopted heirs and all of that. Like it's less about blood connection and more about who you choose as your family. Like that's what they care about. It's so good. They like casually reference binders, which I didn't even catch in my first read of The Mask of Mirrors. I caught it in my reread. It's so good. It's such smooth, normalized representation that is built into the governance and politics and functioning of this world. It's so well thought out. Anyway, that is what I had to say. I have spoken way longer. I'm gonna hate myself when I'm editing. But I'll see you guys later. Hi guys, so today is Tuesday, the 21st. I'm gonna wrap up this vlog, but I thought I would update you on what I have been reading. So I actually have not gone back to reading Wildwood Dancing. I will. I just didn't really feel in the mood for it after I finished The Liar's Knot. I was in a little bit of a book hangover, I guess, after The Liar's Knot, or like I just kind of wanted to sit with it and I didn't want to immediately pick up something else. I actually have not been in the mood to do all that much reading in general. I have been watching a lot more TV than I have, like in the whole of this year. I have not really been watching TV, I've just been reading. And I've been in the mood to do some more watching TV in the evenings. So that is what I have been doing, less reading, but I did read something. So I picked up Archangel by Sharon Shinn, and this is a book that was loaned to me by one of my friends, Rishma, who's in my fantasy book club here, and it was really cute. I read it in maybe 2 or 3 sittings. Okay, so here's what it is about. Essentially, this seems like a post-apocalyptic world, sort of, where it's very clearly a fantasy world, but there are small hints to technology that make you feel like this is a post-technology sort of a world. They talk about how they have only been in this world for 500 years because their god, Jova, brought them here 500 years ago from another world that was dying or something like that. So it makes me feel, it feels very like post-sci-fi fantasy kind of a thing. And the prophets, or like the oracles, talk to God, and it's very clearly some sort of computer system. But nobody else knows how to understand it. So that's not what the book is about, but that's just sort of like the world set up. So in this world, there are both angels and humans, and the angels, like, they have wings and everything. These are angels. The angels, they need, because they're the ones who can more effectively or most effectively speak to God, like Jova, in the sky, and they do this by singing. Like, music is really, really important to this culture. You ask an angel for help and they like sing up in the air to God, they pray to God for you, and the weather magically changes, or you get those seeds, or healing happens, whatever. So there's 3 provinces, each ruled by an angel, and every 20 years there is an archangel who's the one that's like officially in charge of the whole country or world. One of our main characters, Gabriel, is about to become the next archangel, and one of his duties is to lead like this huge prayer every year, and in their religious texts it is described that he has to do so with his Angelica, his wife, beside him. So he has been putting off trying to find his wife. That is someone who is selected by their god. He goes to his oracle, he gets the name of this girl, goes to her village, and she's not there. Like, the village was destroyed a really long time ago. So he has to find her. Her name's Rachel. He does find her. It turns out that she was actually captured by these people, and she is a slave. Their god has chosen this girl, Rachel, to be his wife, and so he like just takes her and is like, hey, you're gonna be my Angelica. And she goes along with it because she's getting free, but also she really, really does not want to do this. But she is a believer in the god, so she goes along with it, sort of. But that's the whole setup, like that she's chosen to be his wife, and she really does not want to be. In fact, she doesn't even believe in marriage. So that is the whole setup for this book. We do get both points of view. So you can see it's sort of like a hate to love fantasy romance. I did really enjoy it. I read it quite quickly. It was maybe a little bit heavy on the religious tones for my personal preference, like quite heavy-handed. It's not that I don't like religion and books. I read lots of books with religion, but the way that, like, what this was saying about religion, which was very forceful about this is how one should believe, sort of, is just not the way that it's just not my preference. It was a little bit much for me. And then I actually didn't really like the main character, Rachel. She was really, really stubborn. She was described as being really stubborn and angry all the time, and I get it. Doesn't want to marry this guy. He used to be a slave. It was just always described as like, she really liked to be contrary and she was stubborn and stuff, and I was like, don't present it like that. Present it as the results of what she's been through. I just found that she was just contrary to the point where it didn't make sense, even beyond the point where her feelings were clearly involved. And she just, like, if he said the sky was blue, she would insist that it was black. Like that sort of a thing. And I don't like that. So that was Archangel. I can't wait to talk to my friend Rishma about it. It was really cute. I am actually planning to read more Sharon Shinn for a different video that I am planning in the future. I hope that they're not all as religious as this. So that's something for me to look into. And then, so that was like, I don't know, I read that a couple days ago. And then last night, I really didn't know what to pick up next. I did wind up picking up Tigana. I just didn't feel like picking up Wildwood Dancing. I will go back to that and finish it, but just not right now. So Tigana, I'm like 60 pages in. I've barely read anything, so If you haven't, I will probably talk about this more in the future, but if you haven't heard, Tigana is a standalone fantasy, historical fantasy, about a world where there are basically two warring overlords, sort of, who are trying to take over this one particular province, but they're fighting over it. And a really long time ago, I don't remember how long, but at some point in the past, both of them are like wizards or sorcerers or something, and one of them lost a son in a battle, but because it happened or was caused by a particular province, he just like destroys this province, and he sets this, I guess, curse or like magic that makes everyone in the world forget the name of that province or country, I'm not sure. It's Tigana. And this is like an underground rebellion, like small grassroots rebellion to take down that wizard. And the result is that everyone cries, and it's really sad. That's all I remember. No, I remember a teensy bit more. I have read this in the past, but I read this a really long time ago. So this is my first reread that I've done since like early 2000s. So it's been a while. Early 2000s? Mid 2000s. Anyway, so this is what I have started on. I was planning to do this as the audiobook, and I went to pick that up actually last night, or like to do a little bit of like listening while reading, so like passively reading. And Scribd has suddenly decided that my Tigana audio is unavailable for the next couple days. Of course. So I was physically reading it, but I will probably do a mix of reading and audio again. And then I have also started A Christmas Carol, but I am like a few pages in. Basically in the evening, I have this downloaded on my phone I got it through the library. And when I go to bed, if I'm not immediately falling asleep, I pick this up and I read like a few paragraphs until I am lulled into sleep. Not that it's boring, it just is being really effective for that. So I'm slowly taking my way through A Christmas Carol. I'll probably focus on that more later this week when we are at our vacation rental. And I'm reading that with my partner, Dave, as well, but I think he's a little bit further ahead than me. Okay, today I am doing all of my final filming for, not for the whole year, maybe for the whole year, all of my like best of the year, top 10 books, biggest surprises and disappointments. I'm filming a couple videos quick, and hopefully then I will just kind of putter away at editing over the next week or so while they slowly come out. And yeah, so I have to do that. This is it for this vlog. Thank you for following along. Let me know if you read any of the books that I mentioned in this vlog. I guess I mostly just talked about The Liar's Knot. If you've read The Liar's Knot though, let me know. And we can talk. And otherwise, I will see you guys next time. The next reading vlog will be, I think, mostly our vacation to like a vacation home. So really lots of like cozy Christmas baking and stuff like that. Okay, I will see you next time, guys. Have a great day. Bye.